Welcome. This is an example Reattack Brief for VT86. Today we're going to be in rocket 503, TAC call sign Hammer 11. Pilot is going to be Buck, instructor myself, Lieutenant Halterman, with student Ensign Doe, doing a Reattack 1 flight, FR1. Other jet's going to be rocket 504, pilot TAC call sign Hammer 12, pilot Miller, instructor Lieutenant Bergeron, student Smith, also doing an FR1. Weather. This is where you want to break out the weather. Most notably, hey, what is the weather at the field? So we want to know both takeoff and land, whatever the planned diverts are, and the weather in the working area, what that's going to be. If the weather is questionable, if anyone has any PIREPs, you want to try to get those ahead of the brief. Also, if it's the winter time, you need to check the surface temperature in the area, as well as the temperature of the water out in the working area. NOTAMs, you only want to brief the applicable NOTAMs for your for wherever you're taking off from and whatever your diverts are for that day. Lineup today, we're going to be in number 15 and number 3 respectively. Kneeboard card review. This is where you'll break out the kneeboard card and just talk about very basically what is on the kneeboard card. So hey, on the right-hand side of the kneeboard card, we have our standard admin information. On the left-hand side of the card, we have our bullseye information. Any questions or changes to the kneeboard card, bring those up at this time and give everyone an opportunity to do the same. Walk time is going to be 7:15, taking off at 0800, land time at 10 o'clock. Complan, UHF-1, ATIS on button 1, clearance on button 2, ground on button 3, tower on button 4, departure on button 6, sea breeze on button 15, grit rock on button 16. UHF-2, the instructor is going to own that. He'll get the call to base on button 18, and then he'll switch up quarters as the TAC freak. The pilots will own VHF-1. Okay. Admin radar. For the admin radar set, make sure that you have it in 20-mile scale, 4-bar scan. Altitude blanker on, data block also on. L strobe in the detent, and the cursors or acquisition gates at 10 miles. Taxi is going to be standard if you are at NPA. Nav plan is going to be the NPA 2, and that's going to get you to the Whiskey 155. Takeoff numbers, gross weight today is going to be 20,000. Balance field length 5.1, V1 123, rotate at 126, and safe single engine is 131. We'll be working in the Whiskey 155 Bravo today. That is what we're scheduled for. We have from 0815 to 1000. We'll be cleared from 7,000 to flight level 250. For entering into the area, departure is going to switch us to sea breeze. We're going to check in with sea breeze. Sea breeze rocket 503 2000. They're going to come back and give us that altitude clearance, and we'll roger it up. Once we are handed off from sea breeze to grit rock, button 16, we're going to continue to proceed from there, and we will check in with grit rock, simply grit rock rocket 503 2000, and then we'll roger that up. For exiting the area, once we exit the area, we must have positive clearance out of the area to leave and enter Pensacola airspace. Fuels. Joker today is going to be 2.2, Bingo 2.0, and planned fuel on deck is going to be 3.2. For RTB ATIS, the standard is going to be that the last bogey instructor on the second to last run is going to get ATIS and pass that over UHF-2 to the other jet. If, for whatever reason, that doesn't happen, just go ahead and get ATIS on your own. For RTB procedures, the lead aircraft, which is usually going to be the bogey, is going to proceed down to 7,000 feet and head back to Pensacola. Trail aircraft, which is usually going to be the last fighter, is going to tell grit rock rocket 503 visual trail, and they're going to continue down to 8,000 feet. They'll ensure a minimum, the trail aircraft that is, of 5 miles of separation is accepted between the two aircraft, whether that's through slowing down, geometry, or even taking a spin. We need to have 5 miles of separation. From there, we'll proceed inbound and wait for clearance from sea breeze. Fuel, Joker is going to be 2.2, Bingo is 2.0 today, and planned fuel on deck is 3.2. Okay, contingencies. Today we can slide up to an hour per maintenance. There's another set of air-to-air jets going out after us, so we can only slide up to an hour. To our knowledge, there is no spare, but we can double check with maintenance once we get over there. There is no alternate mission today. However, If we lose one air-to-air jet, but they do have a G available, we can put both students in the jet with the good operable radar. Safeties, abort is going to be throttles, idle, wheel brakes as required, thrust reverser switch on. Anything below V1 we'll treat as a ground emergency. Anything above V1 we'll go ahead and take it flying. For emergencies, we'll aviate, navigate, communicate all day today, handle everything with NATOPS and according to sound judgment. System failures, we'll clear any system failures prior to taxi, any subsequent failures prior to takeoff. To include, but not limited to, any radar faults, we will also clear those prior to taxi. Nordo, we'll check all cords, comm switches, Squawk 7600, continue to make all calls in the blind. If we're IFR, we will try to get VFR. If we're IFR and unable to get VFR, then we will return either our expected time, or if we hit bingo, we will just return at that point. We will go through star at 9,000 feet and shoot the TACAN, full TACAN, to the last known runway that is in use. From there, we'll continue to shoot the approach. If we break out before MINS, then we'll go ahead and continue. If we get any Aldous lamp signals, we will abide by those. If we get none, and if we are beneath the circling MINS, then we can go ahead and circle within the pattern and either try to clear ourselves to land, or if there are other signals, then we will continue at that point. If we have to divert, then we will divert IFR to Pensacola Regional at that point. If it's a VFR divert, if we're able to divert VFR, then we will proceed again via star 9,000 feet, and then proceed via course rules. Then we will be rocking our wings. Once we approach and pass the tower, we'll go ahead and brake. If we get any Aldous lamp signals, we will abide by those. If we don't, then we can take it around one last time, see if there's any more signals, and if not, we can clear ourselves to land if it is safe to do so. For midair today, the way that we will avoid a midair today is primarily through our training rules and adherence to fighter sanctuary altitudes, also with good lookout. If we do happen to have a midair today, we'll go ahead and separate immediately, start heading back to Pensacola, and when appropriate and when still over water, go ahead and do a controllability check. Bird strikes today. If we have a bird strike on takeoff, we'll immediately assess whether we need to turn downwind and land immediately, or if we are going to be able to safely go to the delta pattern and burn down sufficient fuel to land per NATOPS. If we have a bird strike on the RTB, if it's on short final, we'll go ahead and continue the approach. If it is well outside a short final, then we'll go ahead and, if necessary, do a controllability check and determine if we can continue the approach or have to delta for that. Diverts. Primary divert today is going to be Pensacola Regional. Emergency fields, we have emergency fields all along the Gulf Coast, but the primary emergency divert field for any emergencies today is just going to be Navy Pensacola. Questions of the day. For your EP discussion of the day, make sure to start with the boldface, then break out the book, and then go through your scenario. Your scenario to include everything from comms, decision-making, switches, where those switches are, peripheral EPs or emergencies. So, for example, if you have pressurization failure and your scenario has you at 21,000 feet, you're probably going to go through emergency descent after that as well, just as an example. From there, continue all of the scenario and your decision-making all the way through landing and egressing the aircraft. For the other questions of the day, those should be standard. For CRM today, since it is my first Reattack flight, I'm going to work on decision-making and assertiveness with my pilot. For ORM today, this is where you want to break out the ORM worksheet, talk through every item, and then highlight anything that is a foot stomper for that day, and then just don't talk about what is wrong, talk about how you're going to mitigate that issue, and then tell us overall, is this a low, medium, or high risk mission today based on that. DOR and training timeout are in effect, and I have no questions on that. Are there any questions on admin? TAC admin, we'll start with fence-in. Our radar fence-in is going to be 40-mile scale, AZ3, 1-bar scan, L-strobe in the detent, altitude blanker still on, data block off. I'll put our altitude alerter down to 7,000 feet, and we'll go ahead and set up our TACAN via the yardstick game plan, which we will brief a little later in TAC admin. We will go ahead and then fence in with the bogey, so the fighter will make the call bogey fence checks. The bogey will come back and say, bogey fenced 6.0, 2992. And the fighter will come back and say, fighter fenced 5.8, 2992. Then the fighter, when he is ready and talking to Gritrock, will go ahead and say, Gritrock Rocket 503 is the first fighter ready to play with a Romeo 1, TAC call sign Hammer 11. Gritrock will roger that up. Once you have confirmed that you have greater enough separation to begin the intercepts, you'll go ahead and make the tapes on, fights on call, and then the intercept will begin. Terminate is used to terminate all local engagements. This is where you'll go ahead and go through your separation vectors. So for terminate, it'll sound like Hammer 11 Fox 2 fighter terminate by the fighter instructor, and then the bogey student will come back and say bogey terminate, Gritrock terminate. From there you'll go through your separation vectors. So the fighter student will make those. In this example he will say fighter west, bogey east, state 5.8. And the fighter will come back and say bogey east, state 5.7. Knock it off. Going to be called 3 times, either for training objectives met, bingo fuel being met, or any kind of emergency today. Instructor only has the hammer on the training objectives being met, but anybody can call it if we reach bingo or have an emergency. The way that will sound, typically for training objectives being met, is from the fighter instructor. Fighter Fox 2, Rocket 503, knock it off. Rocket 504, knock it off. Gritrock, knock it off. And then you'll go into your RTB procedures from there. Role reversal, anytime that you are going to swap roles between jets, the last terminate call is going to sound a little different. It'll sound from the fighter instructor, Hammer 11, Fox 2, fighter terminate, swap roles, bogey terminate, swap roles, Gritrock terminate, swap roles. Fence out. Once we have completed our training or for whatever reason are headed back to home base, we're going to go ahead and fence out our systems. So our radar is going to go back to our admin radar set, which we briefed in admin. Our TACAN is going to go back to Pensacola or whatever is appropriate, and then we will start heading home from there. Enemy order of battle, friendly order of battle. For the enemy order of battle, you want to go ahead and brief with a picture the distinguishing characteristics of the threat of the day per the briefing guide. Friendly order of battle, all you have to do is say that, hey, we are simulating an F-18F, for example, today. 4 types of declarations you can get today. Hostile is known enemy contact, weapons release is authorized. For the remaining 3, bogey bandit standby, they will be treated as a VID. Bogey is unknown contact, weapons release not authorized. Bandit, known enemy contact, weapons release is not authorized. Standby means wait for more information. Setups today are going to be 0 to 75 target aspect, 25 miles between 8,000 and 24,000 foot block. Fighter is going to be at 16,000 feet, 0.5 Mach, and at or above Joker before starting all runs. TACAN game plan, Fighter Hammer 11 is going to be 23 X-ray primary, 29 X-ray as backup. Hammer 12 is going to be 86 X-ray primary, 92 X-ray as a backup. Radar channels, Rocket 503 is going to be in 1 primary with 3 as a backup, and Rocket 504 is going to be channel 4, primary 2 backup. Loadout today is going to be 0 Fox 3s, 2 Fox 1s, 2 Fox 2s. For no AIC, if we have no AIC today and the bogey has to act as AIC, the bogey instructor will give the heading that they're going to have and then turn hardest pass towards the fighter after extending at least a couple miles. The bogey will get the fighter on the scope as soon as possible and then give reverse bra calls. Any questions on TAC admin? TAC conduct setup is going to be per TAC admin. AIC, once we call tapes on, fights on, Gritrock is going to come over with the bogey heading. In this case, bogey left, 180, recommend fighter right. Roger that up, and the bogey will also roger that up. And then we will get a bra call from Gritrock. In this case, it's going to be Hammer 11 Gritrock, single group bra, 03025 medium. And we'll roger that up. And then we'll use that information to get our spiel. We'll bounce the ball. And now from bouncing the ball, we know steady heading, 060. I have a 60 left cut, looking 30 left for a 30 right target aspect, 120 degrees to go. Left to right pass, steady, 060. Okay, For search, we will slew our azimuth gates in the direction of the turn, biasing elevation in the altitude block Gertrock is calling. Once we roll out, we will search medium, high, low, or whatever is appropriate once we do roll out. Target aspect analysis, we will continue whether the contact is not on the scope or he is, and from there we will use our collision course correction rules to make appropriate collision course corrections. In the turn, if the bogey crosses around, we are allowed to make one collision course correction. If he crosses another round, we will not do another collision course correction until the bogey crosses a 0 or a 5. Once we've rolled out and we have the contact on the scope and we've locked him up, and if he was on collision within rounds to begin with, we can again make one collision course correction with him on the scope if he crosses around. After that, we can only make another collision course correction if he crosses a 0 or a 5. Once we do have him on the scope, we will make a declaration call with a brawl call. So in this example, Gertrock, hammer 1-1, single group brawl, 0-3-3-22, medium, declare. And Gertrock will come back in this example and say, hammer 1-1, Gertrock, single group, hostile. At 18 miles, if we don't have the contact on the scope, we will go into our late show game plan. We're going to start off with AZ full and 20 mile. At 15 miles, this is where we will climb or descend if the contact is not on the scope and we've had 3 consecutive calls in the high or low block. If the contact is on the scope, 20 miles, anything outside of 2 degrees, high or low, we can climb to the high or low FSA. High FSA is 20,000 feet, low FSA is 12,000 feet. And at 15 miles, anything outside of 3 degrees, high or low, is also going to be a bogey in the high or the low block. At 14-12 miles is where the timeline splits. Numbers on the left are for low target aspects, 0 to 22. Numbers on the right are for high target aspects, 23 and greater. Collision course corrections are going to stop. In our particular example, we're going to be using the numbers on the right today. So at 12 miles, collision course corrections are going to stop. We will continue with target aspect analysis. We'll come up with our lead turn game plan. In this case, we have what rounds to a 35 right target aspect. So 35 right is going to go to 17.5 left. If we have not already gotten a lock at this point, then inside collision course correction stopping, we will get a lock regardless of whether or not it's on collision. At 10 miles, in this example, we're looking for a valid lead turn. Valid lead turn has to be within plus or minus 3 degrees of our pre-planned lead point. If the dot is out of the circle, but we need to go high or low to get it inside the circle, then we will do so. If we are outside of plus or minus 3 degrees of our lead point, then we will re-lead. But if we are at our lead point and we do not need to go high or low, and the dot is still not in the circle, then we will wait until it is either in the circle or until we are at our displacement point. Aim 7, valid Aim 7 criteria are going to be wings level, hostile declaration, and the dot inside the circle plus or minus 3 degrees of the lead point. We will pass the dot with a hostile declaration and a valid shot. If we do not have a hostile declaration at this point, then we will ask for another declaration, which would simply sound like Gertrock, hammer 1-1, declare single group. And if they declared a hostile at this point, since we've already correlated, they only have to come back hammer 1-1, Gertrock, correction, hammer 1-1, Gertrock, single group hostile. Now we will get into our displacement turn game plan using the rule of 50. In this case, still have a 35 target aspect. 35 right is going to go to 15 right for displacement. At 10 miles, we'll begin our arrow calls, azimuth, range, elevation, overtake. An example is going to be, in this case, 15 right, 10 miles, 2 high, 500 over, on tally, 18,000. And also at 10 miles, anything greater than 4 degrees high or low is going to be in a different altitude block. Also, if the contact is not on the scope, we'll go to ACM slewable at this time. 8 miles, we're going to displace. If we over-displace, if we over or under-displace by greater than 5 degrees, we will immediately redisplace. If we over-displace by less than 5 degrees, we will immediately begin the counter turn. And if we under-displace by less than 5 degrees, we will let the bandit drift to the displacement point and then begin counter turn. For counter turns, all counter turns, target aspects 0 to 22, we will start with an easy turn. 23 and greater, we'll start with a standard turn. Going over to the example radar scope here, Target aspects 0 to 17, we're looking for constant angle off, which is going to be represented by the green line here. So what we're looking for there specifically is hold him at our displacement point angle off until a standard rate no longer holds. We see 1 degree of outward drift, and then we will bring the contact to the nose with a hard as pos turn. For target aspects 18 to 27, we're looking for slight, steady inward drift, so that's going to be a 3 down to 1 in ratio. Again, starting with an easy or hard turn depending on their initial target aspect, and then easing or hardening as necessary to maintain that drift curve. For target aspects 28 to 47, we'll go ahead and use steady inward drift starting with a standard turn, bring the contact to the nose, and then hold them on the nose for the remainder of the counter turn. At this point, we will also select aim 9. 6 miles is going to be min displacement for us. For every mile or fraction of a mile inside min displacement, we will over displace by 5 degrees. 5 miles, continue with our arrow calls, and also at 5 miles, 5 degree, anything greater than 5 degrees high or low is going to be in the high or low block. 2 miles, if we have run the counter turn correctly and on time, we expect to see the bogey 90 degrees to go, 2 miles, and on the nose with 300 knots rate of closure at that point. At 1.5 to 0.5 miles, looking for a valid Fox 2. Criteria for a valid Fox 2 is going to be the dot plus or minus 8 degrees inside the ASE circle. That's all for both azimuth and pitch. Hostile declaration between 1.5 and 0.5 miles. Rate of closure between 0 and 100 knots, no opening. Hard turn or less, drift stabilized with slight inward drift okay and outward drift not okay. After we've met our valid Fox 2 criteria, the student will pass the dot and the fighter instructor will go ahead and make the shot call. Hammer 1-1, Fox 2, fighter terminate. If we don't have a hostile declaration at this point, we will go for a VID, and the VID is going to sound like Gertrock. If we see one, Gertrock, Hammer 1-1, VID, T39, declare. And Gertrock will come back and say, Hammer 1-1, Gertrock, single group, hostile. Break X. If we see a break X on the radar, which is going to be inside of 0.5 miles, we're going to have to turn hard as pos to put the bogey 40 degrees in a lag pursuit. Wait until we have some opening. Break X disappears, and then turn hard as pos to get the valid Fox 2 inside the dot again. Any questions on TAC conduct? Okay, contingencies, no show, we are going to execute per the timeline under TAC conduct. For late show is going to be defined as any radar contact appearing inside of 2 miles prior to collision course correction stopping. In either case, we are going to go ahead and use the HSI and calls from Gertrock or AIC to keep us on timeline. Bad lock, break lock. Bad lock is going to be indicated by hollow diamond, erroneous rates of closure, erroneous range rates of closure, fluctuating L-strobe. If we have a bad lock, we're going to break it by going half action trigger, and then we will attempt another good lock attempt. Break lock, we will do that after we have had 2 good lock attempts. A good lock attempt is making sure that you are placing the cursors just in front of the contact, making sure that you're also bracketing the SAD gates in elevation before doing that. If we have had 2 good lock attempts and we're going into the break lock contingency, we will assume co-channel interference, and here we will switch to our backup radar channel, and today it's going to be channel 3 for Rocket 503. Troubleshooting. If we have any faults airborne, once we're doing the intercept, if our radar is not degraded, then we'll go ahead and just go to the MFL page, check out what the fault and the MSP code is, and then we will go back out and see if the fault is cleared, and if the radar is still working well, we'll continue. If we have a fault that is impeding the radar's functioning, then we'll go ahead and do an IBIT. This is going to take 15 seconds or about 2.5 miles. If we continue with the intercept after doing the IBIT and we still are not getting any radar information, we can do a cold restart of the radar, realize that this is going to take 4 minutes, and the rest of the intercept is going to be run as a no-show intercept. Lost contact. If we have lost contact, First of all, if we're a tally, we are not lost contact and you will not call lost contact. But if you are lost contact, then go ahead and immediately call Grit Rock Rocket 5's correction. Grit Rock Hammer 1-1 lost contact. And Grit Rock will start again to give you bra information. For hot overshoot, if we have a hot overshoot and we're lost contact and we are no joy, then we will call lost contact and then begin the hot overshoot procedures, which are to continue in the same turn direction with a hardest pos turn 30 degrees past the bogey's heading, wait for AIC information. Once we start getting the bra information from AIC, split the difference between the heading and the bearing information. If we have no AIC information within 10 seconds, then we will turn to the bogey's heading. For target aspects 23 to 22, we'll experience timeline compression. We will have 2 fewer miles to complete our timeline. Target aspects greater than 47, we have lost our Fox 1 opportunity and we will not take the bogey 2 lead. Cold 100s. For cold 100s, anytime you have a cut greater than 90. For target aspects of 50, we will use a 100 cut with no buster. Target aspects 55 to 65, we will multiply the target aspect by 2, subtract 10, and that is our cut, and then we will add a buster. For target aspects 70 and 75, we will multiply the target aspect by 2, subtract 20 and then for the cut, and then we will add a buster. And we will also be aware of the fact that target aspects 70 and 75 will never truly be on collision. Displacement turns and counter turns are slightly different in cold 100s. Displacement turns for cold 100s, it is still the rule of 50, but now we are taking the displacement point to the opposite side. In counter turns, we will simply remain wings level after displacing, let the contact drift to the nose, and then start our counter turn with a standard. And making sure that we will throttle back once we are assured of rolling out within rear quarter range of the Fox 2. Auto range failure. The radar scope should, from STT, automatically range down with 45% to go on the screen, which is about 18 miles on the 40-mile scope. If this does not occur, then we know we've had an auto range failure. To fix this, we're going to go full action sugar pull. This is going to take us into SAM mode. Then we will manually range down, and then we will full action sugar to take us back to STT. We will not do this contingency if we have a missile in the air or if we are on a 10-mile scope or less. Any questions on contingencies? Okay, wrap up today. Again, we're going to be Rocket 503, call sign Hammer 1-1, doing an FR1. We walk in 11 minutes. Any questions?